Good morning. Welcome to Connect Daily Bread, where we recognize that man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. Today's reading is in Luke chapter 20. And here we go. One day, as Jesus was teaching the people in the temple courts and proclaiming the good news, the chief priests and the teachers of the law, together with the elders, came up to him. "Tell us, by what authority are you doing these things?" They said to him, "Who gave you this authority?" He replied, "I will ask you a question. Tell me, John's baptism, was it from heaven or of human origin?" They discussed it among themselves and said, "If we say from heaven, he will ask, 'Why didn't you believe him?' But if we say of human origin, all the people will stone us because they are persuaded that John was a prophet." So they answered, "We don't know where it was from." Jesus said, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I am doing these things." He went on to tell the people this parable. A man planted a vineyard, rented it out to some farmers, and went away for a long time. At harvest time, he sent a servant to the tenants so that they would give him some of the fruit of the vineyard. But the tenants beat him and sent him away empty-handed. He sent another servant, but that one they also beat and treated shamefully and sent away empty-handed. He sent still a third one, and they wounded him and threw him out. Then the owner of the vineyard said, "What shall I do? I will send my son, whom I love. Perhaps they will respect him." But when the tenants saw him, they talked the matter over. "This is the heir," they said. "Let's kill him, and the inheritance will be ours." So they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. What then will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and kill those tenants and give the vineyard to others. When the people heard this, they said, "God forbid." Jesus looked directly at them and asked, "Then what is the meaning of that which is written? The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Everyone who falls on that stone will be broken to pieces. Anyone on whom it falls will be crushed." The teachers of the law and the chief priests looked for a way to arrest him again, because they knew he had spoken this parable against them, but they were afraid of the people. Keeping a close watch on him, they sent spies who pretended to be sincere. They hoped to catch Jesus in something he said, so that they might hand him over to the power and authority of the governor. So the spies questioned him, "Teacher, we know what you speak is and teach what is right, and that you do not show partiality, but teach the way of God in accordance with truth. Is it right for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not?" He saw through their duplicity and said to them, "Show me a denarius. Whose image and inscription are on it?" "Caesar's," they replied. He said to them, "Then give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." They were unable to trap him in what he said there in public, and astonished by his answers, they became silent. Some of the Sadducees, who said there is no resurrection, came to Jesus with a question. "Teacher," they said, "Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies and leaves a wife but no children, the man must marry the widow and raise up her offspring. Now there were 7 brothers. The first one married a woman and died childless. The second, and then the third married her, and in the same way the 7 died, leaving no children. Finally the woman died too. Now then, at the resurrection, whose wife will she be, since 7 were married to her?" Jesus replied, "The people of this age marry and are given in marriage, but those who are considered worthy of taking part in the age to come and in the resurrection from the dead will neither marry nor be given in marriage, and they can no longer die, for they are like the angels. They are God's children, since they are children of the resurrection. But in the account of the burning bush, even Moses showed that the dead rise, for he calls the Lord the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is not the God of the dead, but of the living, for to him all are alive." Some of the teachers of the law responded, "Well said, teacher," and no one dared to ask him any more questions. Then Jesus said to them, "Why is it said that the Messiah is the son of David? David himself declares in the book of Psalms, 'The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for you.' David calls him Lord. How then can he be his son?" While all the people were listening, Jesus said to his disciples, "Beware of the teachers of the law. They like to walk around in flowing robes and love to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces and have the most important seats in the synagogues and places of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses and for a show make lengthy prayers. these men will be punished most severely. So at the beginning of the chapter, we see Jesus's authority is being questioned by chief priest and by the teachers of the law. And they ask him directly, by what authority are you doing this? And Jesus sees what's going on, and he lays out for them, hey, you tell me, what authority did John the Baptist do what he did? And this causes a rift between them. And in truth and actuality, they didn't believe that baptism came from God. But they decide to say nothing, because if they answer that way, they perceive that they're gonna be hated and or possibly stoned by the masses who did believe that John the Baptist came from God. And Jesus, true to his word, doesn't disclose any more to them on the matter. And then he moves directly into the parable of the tenants. And it's talking about a man planted a vineyard. He rents it to some farmers for a long time. And now he's trying to get some crops out of there. So he sends his servants, hey, go get some crops out of there. And to the first, second, and third, it doesn't happen. They're beaten, shamed, sent away empty-handed. So then the owner of the vineyard thinks to himself, I'll send my son, whom I love. Surely they'll treat him right, and he'll be able to bring the harvest back to me. And in fact, that's not what happens. They see it as an opportunity to kill the heir, and they take out the son. And this is obviously a metaphor laying out what is soon to take place in the crucifixion of Jesus. That God is the owner of the vineyard, and Jesus is here to bring back to the Father that which is his. And that which is his are the Israelites who are lost, and that which is his are people of all nations that are lost without him. And Jesus just backs us up with prophecy that the stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. And that's a prophecy that's about him, that he's going to be the cornerstone for the temple of God. But first, that stone was rejected by man. And he says, man, this is a powerful stone. Everyone that falls on that stone will be broken to pieces, and anyone on whom it falls will be crushed. So there's devastating consequences for those that will try to bash and overtake Jesus, the cornerstone. Now Jesus gets questioned about paying taxes to Caesar. And these come from spies who want to catch him in his words so that he can be turned over to Rome. And so they butter him up. Teacher, we know that you speak and teach what is right, and that you do not show partiality, but teach the way of God in accordance with truth. Now, is it right for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Jesus sees through their duplicity and says, show me a denarius. Show me the money. Show me the coin. And they do. Whose image is on it? Okay, Caesar's image is on it. And then he answers from there, and then give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. And that settles the matter. We can see that this was not a good question, because good questions have follow-ups. And the natural follow-up to this question would be, well, what do we give to God? And I think Jesus would have said something like, whose image is on you? That we are the object of the Father's desire. He made us to love us. We are that in his creation, which has the honor of bearing his image. Next, it moves into talk of the resurrection and marriage. And so it's important to know the Sadducees don't believe in the resurrection at all. So they give a hypothetical thing about the resurrection that they think could never take place. And it has to do with, a man marries a woman, dies, leaves her a widow. There's brothers in line that have yet to been married. In that day and age, the custom was okay. The brother then would marry her and bring about children. But this happens all the way to the seventh, and none of them, all of them die. None of them reproduce. And so asked what's going to take place at the resurrection. And Jesus just says, man, you don't understand the power of the resurrection. You don't understand what it's going to be like. That there's not going to be marriage in heaven. But there's going to be something so much greater and better. And I don't know precisely what that means or looks like, but I trust that what Jesus is going to give is even better than that. He says we're never going to die, and we're going to be made like angels. I don't know what it is, but it sure sounds exciting. And then he starts asking some questions. He says, whose son is the Messiah? Then Jesus said to him, why is it said that the Messiah is the son of David? David himself declares in the book of Psalms, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool. David calls him Lord. How then can he be his son? So he doesn't get an answer back on this one, but he just lays it out there. You know, there was a belief that he would be the son of David. And there was some credibility for that based on certain Old Testament passages. But he's driving to the heart of the matter of, okay, something different than a biological son is what's going on here. For in fact, in this psalm where David speaks of the Messiah, he refers to him as Lord, right? And so we know that something going on is that this is God in the flesh, and he did come to usher in God's kingdom, but it's not going to look like David's kingdom or any of the kingdoms of the earth, but it's going to rule and reign and last forever and expand by those who've embraced Jesus personally as the king of their hearts. And then he gives a warning against the teachers of the law and some of their hypocrisy. In verse 45, it says, while all the people were listening, Jesus said to his disciples, beware of the teachers of the law. They like to walk around in flowing robes and love to be greeted with respect in the marketplace and have the most important seats in the synagogues. And they be placed in the places of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses and for a show make lengthy prayers. These men will be punished most severely. So a strong urge and warning to not go that pathway. So for you and I, there's a lot that we could glean from this passage. But a couple takeaways that I would highlight is number one, a recognition of by what authority Jesus did all that he came to do, and that came from God the Father, from the maker of heaven and earth. And to recognize that, and while we're here, we too have taxes to pay, and we are to do that. We're told here that we are to do that. Elsewhere in Scripture, Romans 13, that we are to do that. But as we do that, we recognize that there is something greater to be paid to God, and that something greater that he asks for is for us to give our whole selves to him. And that's a choice that we are presented with each and every day. You know, Paul says, I die daily. So it's this idea of dying to self and living for Christ. But that's a daily decision for us to make. Those are my thoughts on today's readings. Love you guys. Have a great day.